Yeah, good afternoon, folks. It's Bob here at Serenity Hill. I'm in the bathroom. And what I'm showing you is my $2,000 door. I finally got my bathroom door finished. We have a door in our bathroom now. And along with that, I'll include some video of the in process, but I just thought I would show you what this thing looks like. I've still got to put my trim plates in, but here's my door, and I'll give you a few details about it, and then we'll show you some of the in process on it. All right, so here you see the door. Now, the one thing that's nice about it to me, it may not get anybody else excited, but the trim around the door and the door, the panels, everything like that are all from the same tree. Now the door, you notice the wood is not straight. I use the live edge so that I catch some of these details. And boy, that caused some that was really fun getting that fit in. And then the panels themselves are made using the wood I got from a crotch of a tree. You got some bark inclusion there. In here, you got some almost looks like burling, kind of burl right in here. And then what they call compression grain from where the way the branches are, it puts pressure on the tree, and you get some really interesting grain from it being compressed. And so that was a real challenge, but it was a lot of fun. Don't know if I'd want to do one again. I told Debbie if someone asked me to do one of these doors again, I'd say, yeah, $2,000. I wouldn't do it for a penny less. There's a lot of hours of work in there and a lot of fitting, and this thing went together and apart probably at least a dozen times before I was halfway satisfied. And there's still some things I'm not real crazy about, but I'm a perfectionist. The trim here is 3/4 inch thick oak with and it's 3 inches wide, and I put a rounded edge on it. And as you see, it's got some of the same graining, and I just put a satin poly on it. I didn't stain it, and that way it matches up with the trim that I've got around the rest of the bathroom. I'm going to make me a trim piece to put on here to cover this this seam, but this piece of trim here covers the gap between the shower and the door frame, and I think it turned out pretty nice. So that's my $2,000 bathroom door. So the first thing I had to do is take these boards. They're about 2 1/4 to 2.5 inches thick. 2 of them. This one's going to be the uprights, and that one there I'll cut to make my cross pieces. And I've got some other oak that I'll be bringing in that's thinner, that I'll plane down to 3/4, and that'll be the inside panel. But the way it's going to work, let me show you, put this down, is the live edges will be on the inside of the door, and then the panels, the cross piece at the top, the middle, and the bottom, and then the panels on the inside. And that will be a very unique door, one of a kind for sure. All right, now one of the other things that I'm going to be working on in the next year is getting my workshop, finish up insulating a workshop and getting interior walls on it. But that's kind of a low priority compared to getting the house ready. And I have that's a 220 volt air conditioner with heat that I'm going to be putting in in my workshop. But again, that's been kind of low on the priority list. So what I'm working on right now, all this wood that you see here, is what's going to become my bedroom door or bathroom door. And I got something special planned on that. Been having to plane it. And you can see, I've talked before about getting that those panels that were the crotch wood from a tree. And you can see this has got, after it's been planed down, I have to sand it and all that. But you see what a beautiful, how beautiful that is. That's some burl in there, a little bark inclusion, and then the really interesting grain where the true branches were growing together. And so I got 4 panels like this, and those are going to be going into the door. And the actual frame of the door, it's just some scrap cedar that I got to help with cutting. The actual frame of a door is going to be these pieces of oak, and I'm going to be having those with a live edge on the inside. So I'm going to have to rig me up a jig with my router to be able to route a channel in here so that these panels, when I get them glued up, will fit in there. And that will be the panels for my bathroom door. And again, the live edge on the inside of it, and that'll be on the cross pieces as well. The one at the bottom and the one at the middle will be the live edge, and I think that'll give it a nice look. I've got another board that I've got to plane down because these panels, even joined up side by side, aren't going to be quite wide enough to fill the space in there. Just to give you an idea, can you imagine how pretty that's going to look in a door? And when I put some poly on it, boy, it really makes it pop out and shine. So anyways, those aren't wide enough, so I'm going to have to plane down another board to be able to glue onto the sides to make my panels wide enough. And I'll also use that board to make the door jambs. So that's what I'm working on right now. All right, so what I'm doing right now is, you can see I'm using a live edge on the inside, but I need to join this piece up to it. And so what I've done is I'm in the process of squaring this off and give me a nice flat surface. And then I'll cut this one, and I'll make my final determination once I get both of these cut and get the dimension. That way I'll know exactly how long this needs to be. I'll take my router with my rabbiting bit, and I'll make the groove down the center, and then I'll cut this long enough to account for the groove, and then cut this down to make a tongue that'll fit in the slot that'll be right here. But in that way, I've got, instead of trying to match live edge up to live edge, which would be challenging and not really give me that great a joint, this way I can have a nice square, a nice flat surface here, a nice flat surface here that'll make a good glue bond, and the tongue there. So I'll have a real good strong glue joint here. And just and then I'll have to kind of blend this in with the groove here, and then the panel will fit in there. So that's what I'm doing. I've got to do one for the center and one for that end, and then the 3 on this side, and then I'll be ready to start cutting and fitting my end pieces and my cross pieces. And of course I have to get my panels glued up to go in there. So that's part of why if you buy something like this that's handmade, this would be so much easier if I was just using straight dimensional wood, because it'd be a real easy matter to cut the groove for the panel to fit in with a straight edge versus this live edge that has so much variation in it. It'd be so much easier to fit the panels into. So, and here having to do this trimming, if it was just regular dimensional wood, I wouldn't even be having to do this. I just cut my groove, cut that, boom. But working with live wood and the live edge takes a little more planning and a little more work and a little fitting and fidgeting, but it produces a product in the end that's really, really beautiful. So yeah, that's the fun I'm having today. And the tools that I'm using to do that are my hand saw for cutting these grooves, and then a good old chisel to get it square and flat, and just using the eye and the hand to see how smooth and how flat I've got it. And then I'll have to fine tune this one a little bit. I'll take my square and make sure that this edge is nice and flush so that I get a, nice and flat, because it's a little bit thicker here than it is down here. So I have to take my chisel and trim this down a little bit to get that nice square edge, so that when I get this cut square, it'll mate up good. I won't have any gaps, and I'll have a good strong joint. That's a lot of what woodworking is, especially when working with live edge, is just paying attention to detail, and a lot of take a little off here, a little off there, and just do some fit and finish. But it produces a beautiful product when you're done. All right, another piece out, and then it'll be just clean this up and make sure it's flat and square and everything, so I get a good joint. All right, so this is what the mock-up of the door, it looks like. I've got my end pieces cut. You can see I cut a groove. Oh, nice thunderstorm. And a notch. Got a little bit of fitting and filing to do there to get my joint to look the way I want. But what I got to do now is, you see I've got this live edge and I've got a groove cut in here. Well, I cut that with a rabbiting bit on the mortar, on my router. And that's right here. This bit on the router, and you can see it only goes in so deep. And this has been interesting. That's a 1/2 inch wide. Well, with this being live edge, there's some places here where it's not as deep as others, and some places where it's deeper, like right here. Because of the way the bearing is and the way the router runs, look at how shallow that is there versus how deep it is on this side of the live edge. And right here, there's barely any at all. So what I'm going to do, like right now, right in this point, there is no lip to hold that panel in. And I've got my panel marked on where I'm going to have to thin it, because the panel is 3/4 of an inch thick and the groove is only 1/2 inch. So I'm going to have to take an 1/8 inch off each side. And so I've drawn a pencil line here with the shape of the live edge, so I know what to take off. But the issue that I've got is I won't have much depth there. So what I'm going to do is I've got some scrap pieces, and I'm going to try a little something here with my oscillating tool. And what I'll do caught on my cord there. What I'll do is I'll take it and I'll just cut down into the wood flush with where my lip is, and then I'll take and modify one of these. I'll cut it, use my grinder with a cutoff wheel and cut this to 1/2 inch wide, and then I'll use it to run down in the channel and cut that out. So I cut a deeper channel here. I was going to do it with a chisel, but I thought, I got this, and I've got lots of these little tools. I can just cut it narrower and use my oscillating cutter for it. We'll see how that goes. And what I'll do, I won't do it initially on this. What I'll do is I've got some scrap pieces that I had to cut off at the end here, because these were 36 inches long, and I only need them about 24, 25 inches in here. So I will take those scrap pieces and practice on them. That's a good thing to try with when you're doing any kind of work like that, is to keep some scrap to use for your setups and any trial things. All right, well, I tried the oscillating tool works great for cutting down, but for cutting in the channel, even with it narrower, the blade is so short, it's hard to fit in there. So, get that out of the way. You can see here, there's my fingernail there, there's no depth to it. Now I've cut down, and here there was just like that. But you can see where my finger fits now. And so the tool that's working the best for that is a chisel and my dead blow mallet. And just taking this out so that I get a nice channel in here for my panel to fit in. I've got 2 done, 1 more cross piece to go, and then doing the side pieces. All right, so to get the panel to fit, you notice this is not a square panel. It started out as it's rectangular, but you notice the odd shape, and that's to fit in these grooves that are cut. And then I started out trying to use a trim router that has ball bearings on it to ride along the edge. But the problem is that it's different on each side because of the wood. This I'll have to sand down. And you see a step there. This is what it looks like before I start. And then I take my router with a trim bit and just trim it down so that this is thin enough it'll fit in. This is 3/4 inch, and it's got to go down to just a hair under 1/2 inch in order to float inside the grooves here. So I take my router and I trim this, and then now I'll have to take and sand it, because you can see there's just a steep drop. So I'll take my sander and I'll sand it to blend this edge in so it'll have a smoother transition. And I'll take about 3 passes here because I'm taking a sizable amount off, and I don't want to try to hog it all at once. It tends to want to get away. Always forget these. there you go. And that fits in there. So now I got the bottom panel done. All I got to do is get the top panel fit, and then I'll be ready to start my first trial assembly. But this will go together 3 or 4 times before it's finally ready for glue and screws. All right, so as I told you, I take my router, and you see the edge it leaves. You see the little lip it leaves, and there's one on both sides of it because I have to thin the panel out. And instead of leaving that lip there, which looks kind of unseemly, after some sanding, this had the same lip there, but you see how that's eased down. And when you look at the panel, it's hard to really tell that it goes from 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch because I ease that down. It takes a little while to do, but you can see the difference that it makes. And that's a part of woodworking and a part of the craftsmanship and quality, is taking the time to do those things that, I mean, I could get away with just, you know, taking a sander and just taking the sharp edge off here and smoothing it out some. But when I do like this, and you'll see as I put this together, it will make it flow, and there won't be this, what I think is kind of unsightly, but necessary in order to make the panel fit. Our dog Leo, he's not real crazy about it because he used to being able to just come and go. And it's kind of strange having a door on when you haven't had one. And just show you, it opens up nice. You see, I haven't gotten my walls on the other side. But again, the live grain, the live edge, so it's got some of this nice little detail in it. And I just, I'm real happy with it. It's absolutely beautiful. So I hope you enjoy that little thing. That's project I just got wrapped up. You see it closes nice. I just got wrapped up. My next project is going to be getting my workshop cleaned up. I'll have plenty of time to do that because we've got what they call an atmospheric river coming in. We're supposed to have 3 days of 3 or 4 days of rain. It's going to be starting here in just a couple hours, and they say we could end up with a 1,000-year flood. I sure hope not. They're talking 8 to 12 inches of rain. I don't want 8 to 12 inches of rain. So while it's raining and I can't get out and cut down trees or work in the garden area, I'll get my shop cleaned up, and I'll start my next project, which is going to be a spice rack that will fit underneath the bottom of the cabinets. And then what'll happen, you'll pull it out and it'll drop down. You'll have access to the spices, and then when you're done, you lift it up and you slide it back in place. And so it'll be a drawer about that thick underneath the bottom of the cabinet, the upper cabinets, and up out of the way. You won't even see it until you open it to drop down for the spices. So that'll be my next project. I've got all the materials from other projects on hand. I won't even have to go buy anything to make it. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then next week, weather permitting, I'll be getting out there and cutting down some more trees in the garden area so I can make a trip to pick up some cedar and make some raised beds to put in my garden and get that going. You know, I had someone ask me one time, where did you learn all this stuff? Where did you go to learn it? Well, I went to my workshop and just started doing. I watched some YouTube videos, and one of the ways, believe it or not, where I've learned how to do a lot of this stuff, you know, boys are notorious for tearing things up. And it's not that they're being destructive. They take things apart so they know how it's made. And so that's one of the things I like to do. I may not take it apart physically, but I like to take a look at things and go, now, how did they do that? And once I figure out how they did something, why then I can do it too. And a lot of it is just fitting things and attention to detail. This isn't the best thing that I've ever made. It's certainly not the worst that I've ever made. But you know, everything that I make, I learn something. I get a little better, and you know, it's absolutely beautiful. My brother-in-law told me, he said, you know, people talk about building a custom house, but yours is really custom because everything in it is something I made. You will never find another door like that. You can't go anywhere and buy that. And so I have a satisfaction of knowing, you know, now I didn't cut down a tree. My neighbor cut down a tree, but I slabbed it into boards. I dried it in my kiln. When it was dry enough, why then I planed it down to thickness and took my plans that I sketched up and built this door. So don't be afraid to get out there and do something. It may not be as perfect as you want it to be, but you know, every time you do something, you'll get a little better, and you'll have the pride every time you look at it going, I did that. So this is Bob at Serenity Hill. Don't be afraid to get out there and do something you've never done before. You might just like it. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed this. There'll be a few more things like this all along, but there'll also be a lot of getting out and doing mundane stuff like making a garden. So we'll talk at you on the next one. Bye now.